guys, how's it going? And thank you for being here. My name is Ed Medina, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the basic equipment that I use to shoot these YouTube videos in my home studio. So this is the Glow 38-inch Parabolic Softbox. What I like about this particular softbox is that it's very easy to put together. Some of the more inexpensive brands or units, they send you a kit where you need to put things together. The supporting rods need to be fed into the softbox itself. Then you need to attach those rods to the supporting ring. And with this particular softbox, you don't have to deal with any of that. As you can see, it's already pre-assembled, and all you have to do is push in on this centerpiece here, and so you just push down, and there you go. It's ready to go. So that's the reason why I went with this particular softbox. Next comes the inner baffle, which is a diffusion material that gets mounted here by clipping it to these elastic receivers. And the next step is to add the outer baffle or softening material, which just velcros around the softbox. Like so. So this really helps to diffuse the light. So you can have very nice soft shadows. And lastly, this particular softbox comes with an egg crate or a honeycomb grid that you can add to the front of the light. And what this does, it helps to focus the light on your subject. And if you don't want any light spills in your scene, this makes sure that that does not happen. So this may or may not be something that you would put on depending on your type of production. But the great thing is that it comes with the unit, so that's a plus. So it looks like that. Okay, this particular unit comes with a Bowens mount, which a lot of lights, strobe lights use nowadays. So it basically has this triangle configuration where it catches onto whatever light you're going to be using, as long as it has a Bowens mount. Okay, so that's what that is. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add the video light to the softbox. It comes with this protective cap here, and there's a release lever on this side, and you just pull this down and it twists right up. Then you just line up the notches on the softbox like so, and then just twist and it'll click into place. Okay, so now that I have put the light together, I'm going to go ahead and set it on the stand. I added a sandbag onto the light, which is normally good practice to do no matter what, for safety reasons. So a light with a modifier this big tends to get top heavy, so you want to make sure that the light stand doesn't move. If somebody bumps into it, trips or whatnot, it'll stay in place. And also to secure the light, because you want, obviously you want to make sure that you protect your investment too. You don't want any broken equipment. So what I've done is I went ahead and I added the light to the softbox rather than putting the light on the stand first and then putting the softbox onto it. The reason why I did it this way is because it makes it a lot easier due to the size of the softbox itself. It's kind of cumbersome sometimes trying to aim and lining up the bracket, and you're fidgeting with it and you kind of look foolish. And so therefore, the reason I'm telling you is because I already done it. So therefore, I'm just trying to save you from looking foolish. So I went ahead and added the light. And now it just goes into the receiver here, and you can go ahead and tighten that up. Okay. Also, the lever here allows you to tilt the light any way you want, tilt the light up and down. In addition to that, this particular mount has a umbrella hole here, that umbrella holder, that if you didn't have a light modifier, you just had an umbrella, then you can just go ahead and feed it through here, and then it tightens in place. This softbox makes this light really top heavy. Therefore, you want to make sure that whenever you're angling the light, to really tighten this up. I wish that Godox would have made this lever here made out of metal. This is actually plastic. You really crank it up, so sometimes I feel like I'm going to probably break it, but it doesn't. I mean, it's very sturdy as it is, but I just wish that this pieces here would be metal, because it just would give me greater peace of mind. But as it stands, it's a very good light, good quality. Okay, so now that the unit is on, the display shows you what channel is on, what group. It shows the percentage of light intensity, and also the temperature. On the unit, you can actually, with this button here, the group and channel button, you can go ahead and change it by pressing it and then turning the dial, and you can go to group A, B, C, D, E, F. You can hit it again, you put it back to A, you hit it again, and then you can actually change the channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it goes all the way to 16 channels. So 16 channels and 6 groups. The reason for this is if you have multiple lights set in different areas, depending on your production, you can actually designate channels and groups for each one of the lights. So if you have multiple lights, you can actually control the lights through the remote, because it also has the same functionality, and therefore you don't need to be running around from one light to another making adjustments. You can just adjust the lights from the control itself, based on the groups and channels that you designate for each light. So it's an awesome feature. Also, you can, with this dial button here, you can change the intensity of the light. So right now it's going down here. I'm going from 100% to 50%. The only drawback though with the remote is that whenever you change the settings on the unit itself, for whatever reason, Godox decided not for it to transmit that information onto the remote. So the remote, I have it at 100%, yet I dialed it down on the actual unit down to 50, but it does not tell me that on the remote. So the only way for this to be able to sync is you could either put it all the way down to 10, or put it down all the way to, or raise it all the way to 100, and make sure that the remote itself is on the same percentage. Then on the remote, you can go ahead and start bringing it down. For example, I had it at 100. Right now I'm bringing it down to 80%. But now it does display here the same information that's on the remote. So you just need to make sure that the information is synchronized in the way that I just mentioned to you. That way you can have an accurate reading on the remote as to what's going on the light itself. So this unit has an internal fan that will kick in whenever the light becomes hot. Now, I do hear it working. It's very faint, but it's not creating such a loud sound that I'm running the risk of getting the noise picked up by the microphones. Obviously, that's something you need to take into consideration if you're doing some client work with this particular light, where you're doing, let's say, a talking head, or you're doing an interview, or whatever the case may be, where if the fan begins to kick in, how much of that noise is going to be picked up by the microphones. Right now, it's showing that it's at 46 degrees Celsius. The noise coming out of it is very faint, is almost close to nothing. But obviously I haven't ran this light hard enough for this fan to run even faster, or for me to be able to hear a louder noise coming from it. But from what I'm seeing right now, I'm hearing right now, it's not too bad, and I have it at 80%. I'm going to go ahead and crank it up to 100 and just kind of run it there for a little bit to see what happens. Right now it's at 100%. All right, so now the light is actually running at 100% brightness. It's about, I'm going to say, about 1.5 feet away from me right now. It's actually about 6 inches away from the camera and the microphone. I know the fan is going, but it's still pretty faint, so the microphone might be picking it up, it might not be. So we'll see later once I go into post. Also, it's really bright right now, and nice and soft, but I'm still overexposed, if you can tell. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the brightness down. So I'm bringing it down to about 80%. Hopefully you can see the difference. So I'm down to about 70. This is 60, 50, 30, and this is 10%. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it up again to about 50%. I think 40 will do. That's a little bit overexposed still, so I'm going to bring it down to about 30%. Okay, so that's 30% right there. Obviously, I have window light coming in from 2 different directions here, but that slight fill, like I said earlier, it was overexposed. So I think this is a lot better. So the reason why I got this C-stand is because I wanted to have a portable unit that I can use to either mount lights, obviously, but more importantly, I wanted to have a way to mount a camera for those overhead shots that you see in videos, where somebody's talking about the details of a product and whatnot, and they have that bird's eye view of the scene. So you either could do it over a table or do it over the floor, and that way you can either do photography or video, and just have that vantage point that makes your video production a lot more interesting. So the way that I'm going to be using it is with this extension arm. what you do is you loosen this up here. I'm going to go ahead and extend the arm, and then you tighten it into place. These C-stands are awesome because they're very, very sturdy. I mean, it'll pretty much hold anything you put on it. So they're a great investment actually. So whenever you're able to fit it into your budget, I would always recommend you would at least get one, maybe two, because they really, really help. So the way that this works is obviously the C-stand is known because of the three legs here. They obviously fold away, one leg being longer than the other one. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the longest leg is facing the same way as the extension arm, or if you're not using the extension arm, you're just basically adding a light to it, and the modifier or the light box or the softbox is facing forward. You want to make sure that that longest leg also is facing the same way. Okay. In addition to that, when you mount the extension arm, you want to make sure that this adapter here with the knob that allows you to adjust things, you want to make sure that it's also, when you actually tighten, it's also following the same way that the whatever weight is hanging from here, it's following the same spot, because it allows the weight to help this tighten up even more. So that makes it a lot more secure. So having said that, in addition to that, what I do is I also add a sandbag on that longest leg also, and that's just to make it a lot safer. So if somebody trips, hopefully nothing happens to them, but also you want to make sure that your gear is secure and you're not going to be breaking anything. Therefore, the sandbag also helps with that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it together, and I'm going to show you basically what my idea is in this little makeshift studio here at home. By the way, none of the manufacturers or companies have paid me to say any of this. This video is not sponsored, and I do not have any affiliate links. So any of the information that I put in the description below is just purely informational, just in case you are curious or you're interested in any of the equipment that I'm talking to you today. Okay guys, so this is my version of a makeshift home studio. As I mentioned to you, the equipment that I'm using to shoot these videos are the Godox SL-60W video light. That one was about $134 on Amazon. Also the Glow Easy Lock 38-inch parabolic softbox, that was about $89 also on Amazon. And the light stand was about $75. The C-stand, as I mentioned earlier, these run about $200 or a little bit over $200, but I got lucky and I found it for $150. I guess it was on sale at Sammy's Camera in Pasadena, so I didn't hesitate to grab one because I really wanted to have this overhead rig. And in addition to that, this is actually a IKEA tabletop that I'm using. So I got it in white because it obviously, if you do some photography or product photography or video, the white tabletop helps a lot because it reflects some of the light and it kills some of the shadows and things like that. The one thing though with it is that now I'm realizing that it's too narrow, so I need a much bigger tabletop. So I am in the process of finding what the best choice out there. So having said that, the next video I make, I'm going to be putting the whole overhead rig together. So I'm going to be using this camera. It's actually pretty heavy, but perhaps I'll just, if it ends up being too heavy, where it's not going to hold perpendicular to the surface of the table, then I'm going to have to find a different solution. But there's many different ideas that I've been getting. So I'm going to be using this camera. Another thing that I'm going to be using are these super clamps that they're going to be holding the camera here. So I'm still not sure whether I'm going to do a single one or I'm going to be using this slider. This is a very inexpensive slider that I got years back on Amazon. It's a newer, I think it was about $50 or something like that. I have not used it much. But anyways, I was thinking of perhaps mounting it on here somehow so that the camera sits right here, and it also gives me the ability to move it, but I'm not quite sure, so I'm going to be playing around with this and we'll see what the results are on my next video. So once again, thank you very much for watching my video. If you found any of this information interesting or educational, please give it a like. Also subscribe so that you can get notifications on my next video. So I thank you for being here, and I will see you